4 foods sitting in your fridge right now could be doing more damage the second time you eat them than the first. Not because they've gone bad, not because they smell wrong or look wrong. They pass every test your senses can run. And that's exactly what makes this so dangerous. You reheat them, you eat them, you feel fine. And the damage happens anyway, quietly, at a level you can't see or taste. A cancer doctor has spent years studying what heat, cooling, and reheating actually do to food at the molecular level. And the findings contradict almost everything you were taught about leftovers. If you grew up being told just heat it until it's steaming and you're safe, you are about to find out that rule is dangerously incomplete. Here's the frustrating part, like, you're not doing anything wrong by wanting to save food. Reheating leftovers is smart, it saves money, it cuts waste. It's what every budget conscious, time poor person is supposed to do. So when I tell you that 4 extremely common foods turn against you when reheated, I know how that lands. It feels unfair. It feels like one more thing to worry about in a world already full of conflicting health advice. But stay with me, because this isn't about fear. It's about understanding exactly what's happening inside these foods so you can make 1 or 2 small changes and remove the risk almost entirely. And I promise you, the final food on this list is the one almost nobody warns you about, and it's probably in your kitchen tonight. Let's start with the one everyone thinks they already understand: rice. You've probably heard the phrase fried rice syndrome thrown around online like a joke. It is not a joke. Here's what's actually happening: raw rice can carry spores of a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. These spores are tough, they survive normal cooking temperatures. Once you cook the rice and then let it sit out at room temperature, those spores wake up and start multiplying, producing a toxin as they go. Now, here's the part that catches people off guard: reheating the rice kills the bacteria. It does not destroy the toxin they already released. You can nuke that rice until it's volcanic, and the toxin sits there completely unbothered, waiting for you. This is why people report getting sick from fried rice specifically. It's rice that's been cooked, left out, then reheated, sometimes hours or even a full day later. The doctor's point here isn't never eat rice again. It's that the danger window isn't the reheating. It's what happened to that rice before you ever turned the microwave on. Now consider this. The second food on the list is one you were probably taught was the safest thing to reheat: chicken. Protein packed, lean, the poster child of a healthy diet. But proteins behave strangely when they're heated, cooled, then heated again. Chicken is dense with protein structures that break down and reform every time you apply heat. Each cycle of cooking, cooling, and reheating restructures those proteins further, and in some cases, produces compounds that your digestive system simply isn't built to process smoothly. This is separate from the bacterial risk, which is its own concern. Chicken that's been reheated unevenly, with cold spots that never hit a safe internal temperature, is a textbook setup for Salmonella and Campylobacter. But even when it's heated properly, repeated reheating changes the chemical composition of the meat itself. The doctor's research points to this being less about one bad reheat and more about a pattern: the household that reheats the same chicken 2, 3, 4 times over a week. That repetition is where the real damage compounds. But that's only half the story, because here's where it gets interesting. The third food is one that almost never makes anyone's warning list, and that's exactly why it's so underestimated: eggs. Most people assume eggs are either fine or not fine, full stop. But eggs are uniquely sensitive to heat because of their extremely high protein and fat content packed into a small volume. When you reheat cooked eggs, a boiled egg, a fried egg, even egg based dishes like quiche, you're essentially cooking already denatured protein a second time. That second heating pushes the protein structure past the point of just cooked into a state that can produce oxidized compounds. Oxidized compounds are exactly what they sound like: the same family of reaction responsible for rust forming on metal, except this is happening inside food you're about to eat. In small amounts occasionally, this isn't the crisis your brain might be jumping to. But eggs reheated regularly, especially in a microwave where heat distributes unevenly, create hot pockets where this oxidation accelerates dramatically. And there's a second, more immediate problem nobody talks about. Reheated eggs are one of the most common causes of mild food poisoning that people never trace back to the actual cause. They just assume they caught something. Now, here's a hint before we get to the fourth food, because this next one connects everything you've just heard. What if the danger isn't really about the food category at all? What if it's about starch? Because the fourth food on this list shares something critical with the very first food we talked about, and once you see the pattern, you'll never look at your fridge the same way again. Potatoes. Yes, the humble potato. Baked, boiled, mashed, doesn't matter the form. Potatoes are a starch-heavy food, and starch-heavy foods that are cooked and then left at room temperature for even a couple of hours become a breeding ground for a specific and serious risk. Clostridium botulinum. That name should get your attention. It's the bacterium behind botulism, and it thrives in low oxygen, moist environments, which is precisely what you create when you wrap a warm baked potato in foil and leave it on the counter. The foil traps moisture, blocks oxygen, and holds heat just long enough for spores to activate. Reheating afterward does not neutralize the toxin this bacterium produces, for the exact same reason rice doesn't become safe again after reheating. You're killing the bacteria, but the toxin it already made is heat stable and stays active. This is quietly one of the most dangerous food safety gaps in the average kitchen, because potatoes feel so wholesome, so harmless, that almost nobody treats them with the caution they'd apply to raw meat. So here's the pattern the doctor wants you to see, and it's the psychological trap at the center of all four of these foods. We instinctively rank danger by how a food looks or smells, not by what actually happened to it, chemically and biologically, before it reached your plate the second time. Rice feels bland and safe. Chicken feels healthy because it's lean. Eggs feel like the ultimate wholesome breakfast. Potatoes feel like the most basic, harmless vegetable on earth. None of that intuition protects you. The actual risk lives in three invisible factors: how long the food sat at room temperature before refrigeration, how evenly it gets reheated, and how many times it goes through that heat-cool cycle. Get any one of those three wrong, and it doesn't matter how healthy the original ingredient was. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Does this mean you throw out leftovers and start cooking every single meal fresh? No, that's not realistic, and it's not what this is about. The doctor's actual recommendation is far simpler than the fear these foods generate, and this is the part I've been building toward the entire video. The one adjustment that neutralizes almost all of this risk without changing your habits at all. It comes down to speed and temperature at the cooling stage, not the reheating stage. The mistake almost everyone makes is treating the moment food goes into the fridge as flexible. I'll put it away after I finish this show. I'll deal with it in an hour. That gap, that 1 or 2 hours sitting on the counter, is where bacteria multiply and toxins form. The fix is what's called rapid cooling. Get cooked rice, chicken, eggs, or potatoes into the refrigerator within 1 hour of cooking, not two, not whenever. Spread rice and potatoes into a shallow container rather than one deep pot, because a shallow layer cools in a fraction of the time a deep, dense mass takes. And that speed is what prevents spores from ever getting the window they need to activate. For chicken, this means resisting the temptation to reheat the same batch more than once. Portion it before you refrigerate it so you only reheat exactly what you're eating that meal, not the entire container over and over across the week. For eggs, avoid the microwave for reheating when you can, and use gentler, lower, more even heat instead, because it's the uneven microwave hot spotting that pushes oxidation into dangerous territory. And this is the piece almost nobody puts together: the reveal I promised you at the start. It's not really about avoiding these four foods. It's about understanding that reheating was never the actual danger point in the first place. The danger point is the hour or two right after cooking, before the food ever goes near a fridge. Fix that single window, and rice, chicken, eggs, and potatoes go from being on a never reheat list to being some of the most convenient, safe, budget-friendly staples you can build a week of meals around. The doctor's real message underneath all of this isn't fear of leftovers. It's respect for the biology happening in that first 60 minutes after the stove turns off, because that's the window that decides everything that happens after. So the next time you cook a big batch of rice for the week, or bake a tray of potatoes, or roasted chicken you're planning to eat off of for 3 days, remember what actually matters. Not how many times you reheat it, not whether it looks or smells fine. What matters is getting it cold, fast, in shallow containers within that first hour, and reheating it evenly all the way through, exactly once per portion. Do that, and you've eliminated the vast majority of the risk this entire video just walked you through. If this changed the way you're going to look at your fridge tonight, that's exactly the point. Small, invisible decisions are often the ones with the biggest impact on your health, and most of us were never taught to see them. Hit subscribe if you want more of these deep dives into the everyday habits quietly shaping your health, because next time, we're breaking down the foods you were told to avoid that are actually completely safe. And that list might surprise you even more than this one did.